What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Yeah. You see, I got us with a little confetti in the background for the new year.
That looks
You
cute.
see, cute.
Yeah.
Cute is the word. Okay, whatever, nigga. Whatever.
What's that? C-U-T-E? That's how you spell that. Pop folk, what it is, dog.
CUTE with your incessant crowd noise. Cute.
It's all right. People cheering for us.
I wasn't expecting cute to be the word you used for our background. So
Okay.
pardon me. I'm sorry.
I mean, what word did you want me to
I don't
use?
know. I thought like, oh, not cute though. I don't know. I wasn't expecting that, but
Okay.
I'm not upset at it.
Okay.
I'm not upset at it. It was just not what I was expecting of you.
Okay. You wanted me to say lit, maybe?
No, I didn't want that either. That's not what I
Okay.
wanted. I didn't want that either. All right, let's start this thing out right.
Yeah. Pop folk.
It's your boy Sincere Da Vinci.
And it's your boy Jay Hunnit.
This is the J Sim Podcast. What's happening, everybody?
What's happening, pop folk? Mr. Sincere Da Vinci, what's going on with you, man? How's everything?
Same old shit, different day. Yourself?
Hey. Same thing on this end too. Just working hard and just prepping for vacation, actually. So you know how that goes.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah.
That could cause a little bit of stress here and there, but it's all a part of life. And then once you get there, you feel a lot better.
There you go.
It's like you have a weight lifted off your shoulders.
There you
in
go.
a sense. Man, shout out to everybody tuning in at the moment. Sorry we're a little bit late. Cuddy, what's going on?
What's poppin', Cuddy?
What's happening?
What's poppin'? So we're gonna start out. We got a couple cool topics today.
Definitely.
We were predominantly hanging out in the sports world.
Yes, we were
today.
So get ready, ladies.
But we'll start out with something worth talking about in the sports world. It was wild card weekend last weekend, and it was a super wild card weekend. I could say that.
Very exciting.
The Chargers lost
definitely
to the Jaguars. Like I told y'all, watch out for. Miami almost won. Like I told y'all, watch out for
against the Bills. Yeah.
But more so, there were a couple. I'm not impressed about. I know this sounds crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not impressed about the Cowboys beating the Bucks. They were supposed to beat the Bucks. I'm happy they won. Like, of course, I'm happy my team won. Yeah. But the Bucks were there because somebody had to win that division. Let's keep it a bean. They didn't even have a winning. They didn't even have a winning record. They were 8-9 going into the like. And I know what you're saying. It's Tom Brady, and so okay, we got it. So I got it. We got it. Okay. But they didn't put no fear in my heart. That whole division was absolute trash this year. Which leads us to our first question. Is it time for Brady to hang it up? After watching this season, after watching that absolute dumpster fire of an offense that Tampa Bay runs, is it time? Is it time for him to hang it up? Is it time? The one time I actually wanted Tom Brady to win, he failed. This coming from the one nigga who team in our division didn't make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Get out of here, Cuddy. Jay, how did you feel about what you saw on Monday night in prime time?
Hold on, I gotta close the window because I don't know if you can hear
the
train.
You do that? Yeah, while you do that, I will go.
Hold on. Go ahead.
What I saw on Monday night, what I saw all season was a Tom Brady who was not Tom Brady anymore. Is he still a competent quarterback? Sure. Because when you're talking about the drop off from GOAT to deterioration of a career, his numbers were still better than a lot of quarterbacks in the league. But he's not the Tom Brady that he was. I think a lot of it had to do with, for some reason, he couldn't connect with receivers on routes. I'm watching him throw balls that are bouncing 5 feet in front of receivers I'm watching him. He can't do it every down. And they made him throw the ball 66 times on Monday because their running game is non-existent. So, do I think it's time for Tom Brady to hang it up? No. If we are being honest, do I think it's time for him to hang it up? No. Tom Brady can go into a situation, dare I say, like a Tennessee, where they have a strong run game, a decent defense, and are already a playoff team, and Tom can manage you a football game and win you a game. Tom Brady can win football games if he is going to be allowed to throw the ball 25 times, maybe 30, and you don't need him to complete 50-yard passes. If you need Tom Brady to be a game manager, if you need Tom Brady on a last end of game drive to go and get it for you, these are things I believe he can still do. He just can't do it every play, every time out on the field anymore. He can't. He can't do it. He can't do it. But I do not think it's time for Brady to hang it up. I do think that he still has some good football in him left. As much as I'm not a Brady fan, as much as it pains me to say, as bad as he looked, I still saw a man who could play football. Not at the level he's played it before. Not at he has to be the focal point. But I saw a man who is a better option than half of the NFL at this point. And can still go out and win you a game, can still go out and not lose you a game, which is important too. You don't need Brady to go out there and throw 300 touchdowns. You don't need him to throw 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. But Brady is also going to come out and be a clock manager. He might give you 200 yards and 1 touchdown. 250, 2 touchdowns in a good week. And that's all you need. You just need him to not lose you the game. You know what I mean? Don't be out there throwing interceptions all over the place. Don't be fumbling the ball all over the place. I feel like that is where Tom Brady is in his career now. I don't claim the command. Fuck them too. Yeah, they claim you, Cuddy. They love your black ass. So how do you feel? How do you feel? Is it time for Brady to hang it up?
I felt like personally, if he was going to hang it up, he should have done it right after he won the Super Bowl with Tampa. But since he decided to extend his career, because that's all his decision making, basically, I feel like now he could basically still contribute. I feel like with everything going on with the Bucs, with all the injuries that he had or that the team had as a whole, he still had 27 touchdowns and 10 interceptions, which speaks volumes with a team that basically did not have an existent run game. So I feel like if he can go into a situation like even San Francisco, let's say Brock Purdy chokes and folds in these next few weeks, and maybe the coaching staff are reluctant to give him a chance, if there's a chance that they can go after Brady, I could really see Brady go to the Niners. I could see that situation unfold, and I can actually see him do damage there.
Over Garoppolo?
Over Garoppolo and over Purdy, of course. I mean, think about it. They're going to go out of their way to go get Tom Brady, or Brady at least, and his people or his circle or his camp. They're going to go after the 49ers, and they may ask as well. Because during the offseason,
I think that's a hell of a conversation to be had.
No,
especially with Garoppolo being shipped out initially,
right,
to for being competition for Brady's space, and for him to go to San Fran and do what he's done there, to bring Brady in to take Garoppolo's space after Purdy is already taking it. Man, I don't know how that locker room looks.
They're gonna embrace it. I mean, the GOAT.
You think so?
The GOAT is coming to play. So they're gonna accept him no matter what. If he gets
Okay.
to the 49ers, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
And the reason why I'm saying that is because one of the reasons he actually came out of retirement, there was a strong rumor that he was actually in talks with San Francisco to going there,
Okay.
after he announced his retirement. And there were also rumors that he was supposed to go to Miami as well. There was also strong rumors based on that. And my thing is, with Tom Brady and the type of quarterback he is, you mentioned something very key in the sense where he's not going to lose you the game per se. You just have to give him a little bit more pieces. You have to give him a lot of support because, he's not that mobile anymore. He
ain't never been that mobile.
45. No, but at least, he had like pocket presence.
Right.
He could step aside easily, make an accurate pass. But now, he's really looking his age, obviously. He's looking 45 years old on the football field. So I think what helps Brady as well to extend his career is the fact of the rules that, favor the quarterback. You basically can't touch a quarterback, especially Tom Brady these days, because you're going to get a flag. So I feel like if you put him in a better situation with a better offensive line, with better skill position players, at running back and at wide receiver, I think he can prolong his career till he's 46, 47. Like, I can honestly see that, because again, with the Bucks, with all the injuries that they were decimated with, they had no run game. And basically, Tom Brady was still efficient. I'm telling you, he threw 27 touchdowns and only 10 interceptions. And the weight of the whole offense was practically on his shoulders.
Which is why I agree with you. I 150% agree with you.
Yeah.
With everything that was against him, he was still damn near 3 touchdowns to 1 interception. Super efficient.
I mean, he still looked better than Geno Smith, let's say, for instance.
Yeah, he looked better. He looked better than Russell Wilson. He looked like he
exactly.
There's a lot of teams out there that he would have gone out and looked better than Russell than Baker Mayfield. Right. There's a lot of guys out there who jobs are not safe. So yeah, I think he's got 2 more years of real decent
play at least.
Decent play football in him.
Yeah, of course.
This wasn't on the docket, but this came to my mind since we're talking to 49ers.
No, but it's a great conversation to be had because I'm gonna go back to the Cowboys game now. So I think it is significant for the Cowboys because they haven't won a road playoff game in 30 years. So I think it is significant to an extent when we're talking about the Cowboys and how bad they've been, in the playoffs and how good they've been in the regular season. So for them to just go into Tampa and get out that win, I credit them a lot. I didn't trust Dak going into the game, to be quite honest, because Dak has been on and off and he hasn't been his efficient self, I'd say, down the stretch towards the end of the season. And it seems like he has a little bit of momentum right now. And I feel like they are going to give the 49ers a great game. I'm not sure if they're slotted for Sunday or Saturday. I'm not too sure yet at the moment.
I think it's Sunday, but we'll know before the end of the show.
Right. So I just wanted to just get that in, regarding, if you're a Cowboys fan, you should be proud at least of the fact that you were able to get that monkey off your back of 30 years of not winning a road playoff game. And that happened in San Francisco when Troy Aikman was the quarterback back in segregation days, like people be saying under here.
Mm-hmm.
And it was against Steve Young and the 49ers.
Yeah.
Back when the Jim Crow laws were around.
Again, I enjoyed the game. I was happy we won. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that I wasn't.
We were texting through it basically.
Right. The only person I don't trust on the team right now is Maher.
Oh my God.
I don't know. I don't know who he is. I don't know who pocket he's in or who he was point shaving for. But it is what it is.
You remember that text I left you? Oh, not a text. I actually left you a comment on Facebook. I said, remember the kicker from the movie The Replacements?
Yeah.
That he was shaving?
Yeah.
And then, they went after him?
Yeah, that was right Maher. That was definitely Maher. I don't know why my co-host popped out. Again, I don't know. There we go. Yeah,
I
no,
don't
he
know
was
why it does
definitely
that. Yeah.
he was definitely shaving. I feel like he was shaving. I don't know, but fuck it. As far as
Wasn't it weird? The Cowboys scored that many touchdowns, and like I think they only made maybe one extra point
yeah, we
out
only
of
made
all those
one,
touchdowns they scored.
the fifth one,
Because
the
Dak
fifth one.
accounted actually for 5 touchdowns, one on the ground and 4 in the
4
air.
passing, right?
Yeah,
Honestly, the way we played, except for the extra points,
right.
I feel that defense, the team looked
Oh, they were
incredible.
relentless.
Now, here's my question. This is my question. Because I'm just a realist when it comes to sports, I don't like to overthink it.
Right.
I like to take it game by game. I don't want to look at the Super Bowl and we got 3 games before we get there. And I know that every team in the playoffs is just as good as the next team, except this time around they weren't. The Bucks were not as good as the other teams in the playoffs. They weren't.
No, because they barely made it into the playoffs.
The only reason they made it is because somebody has to win.
They played in a crappy division, yeah, and somebody had to win it. I think they went in with like a 9-8 record.
They went in with an 8-9 record. They weren't even.
Okay, so they went in. They went under 500.
Right.
They made it in, yeah,
right,
because of the way the NFL is set up at the moment.
So, and that's what I mean. Like, I wasn't proud of us beating. We were supposed to beat them.
Right.
Like, I'm happy we won, but we were supposed to beat them.
And they trounced them, which they were supposed to do as well.
It did. With the way that defense has flown around last game.
Parsons.
I know that Purdy has looked pretty good so far, but he is still not only a rookie, a 6-game rookie who was damn near the last pick of the draft.
Mr. Irrelevant, basically.
Do you think that Cinderella story with holes against the force of that Dallas defense?
Honestly, not. Like I told you, it comes to a point where you need game experience, especially playoff experience. And at some point, I believe that's going to come back to haunt the 49ers. If it's not against the Cowboys this upcoming weekend, it's definitely going to be whoever wins between the Eagles and the Giants, which I presume that the Eagles are actually going to win that game.
Me too.
So I can honestly see that Cinderella story that you're talking about with cheese holes in it, basically, coming to an end and crumbling, because it's going to come to a point where it's going to be on Purdy to bail this team out. And I don't trust him enough to do something like that, especially in these playoffs where the pressure is like times 10. So
I agree. I don't see it, because when we talk about it, I don't see it. I don't see it, especially when we're talking about, we watch this team fire up the GOAT. We watch this team. Micah Parsons had 9 pressures himself. Micah Parsons by himself
standing game
had 9 pressures. We're not talking about actual sacks. We're not talking about out of the hits. We're not talking about out of the pockets.
Talking about him rushing.
We're talking about one person stats. They're gonna throw coverages at this boy he hasn't seen yet. They're gonna throw. I don't think he is prepared for everything that the Cowboys are going to throw at him. And even if he's prepared for most of it, in most playoff games, the Cowboys and the Bucks excluded, when we're talking about looking at Miami, we're talking about the Jags, when you're talking about the Ravens and the Bengals, these playoff games are coming down to a few plays. That's all that's needed between a loss and a win.
Yep.
That's it. If you come in here and these Cowboys heat you up and you get behind early and Pollard is able to run the ball and they're forcing the ball into Purdy's hands to get...
Pollard is another beast, bro. Jesus.
They're going... I don't believe Purdy is prepared for what it takes in that situation. Not yet.
I see that too.
Not yet. So moving on, we had a fun topic that we're gonna move into. We're talking about. I came across a picture. And I can't load up pictures here for some reason. It just only allow me to load a video, and I'm staying away from uploading NBA videos here and getting us banned.
Right,
so,
correct.
I just have the name of the teams. So we each went over picking 3 teams that never won a ring.
A championship, in other words.
Never won an NBA championship.
You can change the banner too.
But seemed like they were hella built for it. Jay, we're going to go over your 3 first. We're going to start with a team that I agree, and that was on my list as well.
All right. So I'm definitely going to start with the 2001-2002 Sacramento Kings. I felt like this team was stacked from top to bottom. We're talking about.
Now I got the rosters up for everybody. Let me go over the rosters right quick.
Oh, you got the rosters up?
I got everybody's rosters up.
That's perfect. So if you could put
we
them up
got
right
Mike
now.
Bibby.
You got Mike
Chuck
Bibby.
Brown.
You got Peja Stojakovic.
I'm gonna just go over the roster real quick, so that way I can read them out. You got Mike Bibby, Chuck Brown, Doug Christie, Mateen Cleese, Vlade Divac, Lawrence Funderburk, Bobby Jackson, Scott Pollard, Brent Price, Jabari Smith, Peja Stojakovic, Hedo Turkoglu, Gerald Wallace, and Chris Webber.
So you look at that team on paper, and if you know about the NBA, pod folk, especially at that time, we're going back to segregation again. Sorry. That was a stacked team, especially in the Western Conference, where we're talking about teams like the Lakers, obviously, who were the eventual champions. We're talking about the San Antonio Spurs, who was also a great team. And we're talking about, teams like the West was just full of great teams at that moment in time. I think even the Mavericks were even good at that moment in time with the young Dirk Nowitzki.
It was young Dirk and what was the old boy name? Was it Sean Bradley?
Well, Sean Bradley was one of the centers, but I think he was a little before Dirk Nowitzki. That was back in the Jim Crow era. Yeah, but
but this is also back when Michael Finley was out here.
Correct.
This is like a year or two before Mike Finley was out here.
Right. I mean, even the Sonics, I think back then, they even had a decent team. And when I say Sonics, I say Seattle Sonics, pod folk. And this is back when the NBA was on NBC.
This would have been when Rashawn Lewis was getting nice.
Exactly.
Ray was out here.
So, to mention all those teams, within the dynasty that were the Lakers in the early 2000s, and to honestly see this on paper and honestly say from a talent standpoint, they were better than the Lakers, they should have won a ring.
And to a lot of the teams that we're going to mention, what makes it even scarier is that not just on paper were they good.
On the court as well.
On the court, they were great.
Yep.
On the court, they were great teams. And
there was a particular playoff series, pod folk, actually, between the Lakers and the Sacramento Kings in the early 2000s, where the refs totally intervened in that game, and they called everything on the Kings. I don't know if you remember, that was game 6 of the, I want to say 04 or 03 playoff game between them. I don't know if it was in the second round or the third round of those playoffs, but there's a memorable game there that the Kings players were just like, can we get a break in this game from an officiating standpoint? Because it was so poorly officiated to the extent where they couldn't touch anyone. I think Chris Webber fouled out before the fourth quarter in that pivotal game that they needed, obviously to get over the Lakers. So we're talking about a team that actually had the utmost potential to actually just win a ring and maybe win 2. because they were that stacked and they were that talented as a team on paper and on the court, like Sincere just said. So we can move on to the next team.
That real quickly, I'm going to go ahead because I have this page up and this is why I had it up.
All right.
That season, the Sacramento Kings were number 1
in the Western
Conference at 61-21. Rick Edelman was their coach. And they won the first round of the playoffs 3-1 against the Jazz. Won the second round of the playoffs against the Mavericks 4-1, and lost that pivotal Game 7 against the Lakers.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a team who was the number 1 team in basketball and lost in a Game 7.
So they took
the Lakers.
They took the dynasty Lakers at that moment to 7 games.
7 games.
So you can tell, the magnitude of the talent that they had with that particular team. And this, I think, the origins of this, Shaq was definitely a factor, Paris.
But Shaq, though, yeah.
I think
they
the origins
Shaq 200 times in that game, and he got like 8 calls. True.
Well, Shaq, I felt like he's always been a hard person to officiate, with, for other reasons. And I don't even I'm not trying to get into that at the moment. But the Sacramento Kings of the early 2000s, I think were a team primed to win at least not 1, but at least 2 rings. And I felt like, they dropped the ball, late in games in critical moments. And, it happens, it sincerely happens, but I definitely see them. And yes, Cuddy, you're absolutely right. The 2000 Blazers also,
filthy.
They had a great team. Yeah.
Filthy.
I think they called them the Jail Blazers back then.
Filthy.
Yeah. That's an honorable mention, the 2000 Blazers, I think they took the Lakers basically to 7 games as well, if I'm not mistaken.
We had a couple honorable mentions, like the 92-93 Suns.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Against the Bulls. That's when Charles Barkley was in his prime. Yeah. And that's when Kevin Johnson, the point guard of
Kevin Johnson,
was in his prime as well. If you remember, Pafo, back in them Jim Crow days, you dig?
Man, that was man. Yeah. That was it. All right, so let's go to your second team.
So my second team is an obvious one, Pafo, and it's more recent. I'm talking about the 15 and 16 Golden State Warriors. Come on. They won 73 games. When a team wins 73 fucking games, bruh, it's like you expect them to just sweep through the playoffs and win every game and not lose one game. And they did.
And then
LeBron.
And then with LeBron in
series.
No.
Pafo, they won 73 games.
There's not really much else to say about this.
They set the record, Pafo, plain and simple. They took the record away from the Bulls. 95-96 Bulls, if I'm not mistaken, or 96-97 Bulls that won 72 games. They basically broke their record. So obviously they were supposed to win.
Let's go over the roster of that championship team. Leandro Barbosa. Champion-less team. Record-setting, but champion-less.
Correct.
Leandro Barbosa, Harrison Barnes, Andrew Bogut, Ian Clark, Steph Curry, Festus Ezeli, Draymond Green, Andre Iguodala, Sean Livingston, Kevon Looney, James McAdoo, Brandon Rush, Maurice Space, Jason Thompson, Klay Thompson, and Anderson Varejao, who was the only person on that team to get a ring either way. Because what you don't know, and if you didn't know, here's a fun fact. Anderson Varejao started that season with the Cavaliers. And because he started the season with the Cavaliers and ended it with the Warriors, he is privy to a ring regardless of who won. Because he was on both rosters to either start or end the season. So Anderson Varejao still got a ring for that championship run that didn't turn out well for the rest of the Warriors, but he got a ring.
Yep, exactly.
Hold on.
Yep.
I rooted hard for those Kings, but this Newark nigga was too dominant. And Kobe, and that's it.
She's talking about Shaq and Kobe, pop folk.
But they didn't win. No, they didn't win. That's the point, Pre.
That's the point.
We talk about we're talking about three.
Some of the greatest teams
that, or some of the teams that looked and we knew had the chance of running it for a ring, and just something went wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Something went wrong, and we know what went wrong with the Warriors. LeBron James went wrong for the Warriors.
I don't think I've ever single-handedly seen a player, and I'm not even gonna mention Michael, because it's like what LeBron did in those finals, he actually led in every major statistical category for both teams. We're talking about both the Warriors and the Cleveland Cavaliers. I've never seen a player so dominant in a finals ever in my life, and that includes Michael Jordan.
Crazy. Yeah, no, I agree. 150% agree.
That I've never seen anything like that.
I've never seen any dominant.
And I don't think we'll ever see anything like that ever again. It was just that crazy.
It's all good, P. It's all love. Yeah, crazy.
We got you, P. We got you.
So the third team.
So the third team, we're definitely gonna go back to World War I right now.
Whew.
It was the 94-95 Orlando Magic. So
the Nick Anderson Magic.
Damn, we couldn't even say Shaq.
The Nick Anderson Magic, bro.
Give him that roster, bro. Give him the roster,
bro. Hold on, B.
Give him the roster.
Nick Anderson.
There were former Bulls on that team too.
Nick Anderson, Darryl Armstrong, Anthony Avent, Anthony Bowie, Horace Grant,
former Bull,
Anthony Hardaway.
Anthony Penny Hardaway.
Well, no, Horace Grant. Horace Grant left after the season and then became a Bull.
Okay, copy.
Yeah. Penny Hardaway, Shaquille O'Neal, Trey Rollins, Donald Royal, Dennis Scott, Brian Shaw, Brooks Thompson, Keith Tower, Jeff Turner. Come on, bro.
All right, so if you don't remember, Podfolk, during that season, they were destined to go to the finals because no team was seeing them in the East. No team, absolutely. Jordan was coming out of retirement, or he came back from retirement actually during those playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. And he came back with the 4-5, if you remember, Podfolk, in those playoffs. But they had nothing for the Orlando Magic because Penny Hardaway had an absolute monster playoffs in that year. And the Knicks actually didn't even have nothing for that Orlando Magic team as well. And I have an honorable. We'll get there. Definitely. Because the Knicks were definitely a presence in the 90s, But what I'm trying to say is, for that particular year in those playoffs, they were so dominant. You had a young Shaq, basically. And you had a Penny Hardaway who was emerging as a superstar right before our very eyes. And this was like pre-injury Penny Hardaway. So, Podfolk, you have to understand that he was 100% and he was full throttle in these playoffs. And at some point, he even flustered Jordan. And not a lot of players have the story to say something like that, to their children or their grandchildren. Like, hey, there was a playoff where I actually flustered Michael Jordan, even though he had finished coming out of retirement and he was rusty and all that. But during that playoff, he outplayed mostly everybody, I'd say. Anybody who came in, he basically outplayed. And then eventually, this Orlando Magic team met against the Dream and the Houston Rockets, in which they got swept. And as you alluded to, kind sir, you said this was Nick Anderson's team. Nick Anderson was part of the reason why they got
part
swept.
Of the reason?
You're going to blame it all on him? I mean, they're a team, bro.
I mean, they are, but them 4 free throws, my nigga. From
he missed 4 consecutive free throws, I think, in the first game.
Plus free throw shooter.
Mm-hmm.
Penny, yes, P. Yes, you understand. D3, yeah. And apparent Penny, fuck everybody else.
Right?
Orlando squad.
Ain't that right, Dwayne? Yeah.
bro. Horace Grant played in Chicago the first 3 point. Oh, man, that's crazy.
Yeah, but they handled the Pacers as well. That was in the Eastern Conference Finals because I remember those playoffs, and they handled the Pacers well because they just couldn't contain Shaq. They didn't have anybody for Shaq because Rick Smits didn't have anything for Shaq, and then the Davis brothers didn't have anything for him either.
They definitely fucked that up.
And I'm talking about Dale Davis and Antonio Davis, Podfolk. Once again, I remember all these things. I was a kid. I started watching the NBA around this time. I technically started watching the NBA in 1992, to be exact. And I just remember these things vividly, and I love to speak about these games and these moments.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get into my 3. The way I did mine was a little bit different because I saw because I knew who you had, and like we had 2 of the same picks.
Okay,
we had 2 of the same picks. Rick Smits did give that nigga Shaq 45.
He did. He still didn't have nothing for him overall in the series.
Penny is the best player I've ever seen from college today. Okay. Shaq couldn't guard him before the foot injury. Okay. These are all valid points. I'm not lying. Nobody in here is lying.
Right. He just didn't have nothing for Shaq in that series. Period.
Yeah, he didn't have nothing for Shaq in that series.
Yeah. I'm talking about the series. Yeah.
I'm going more at teams who I don't think either gave their roster enough time or didn't truly, whether it was because of coaching or money or whatever it was, knowing what we know now of those players.
Right.
Teams that didn't really fully develop. Or teams that you thought had it and just couldn't. I'm going to start by giving you a perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
The 2015-2016. Now, this is when the Clippers had been making pushes, and every season they were at the top of the West. They were right there fighting with the Warriors every year. Every year.
CP3.
This is CP3. This is Lob City. This is even towards the end of Lob City where they started to be a little bit more team oriented. I'm going to read you that roster. Okay? Because I remember I put the picture up on Facebook earlier. Yeah. Okay, so
that's where the segment was born, Podfolk.
Listen to this roster, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Cole Aldridge, Jeff Ayers, Jamal Crawford, Brendan Dawson, Jeff Green, Wesley Johnson, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, Luka Mabute, Chris Paul, Paul Pierce, JJ Redick, Austin Rivers, Lance Stevenson, Josh Smith, CJ Wilcox, and Allen Stevenson. Bro. Between having big men who can control the ball to defensively supposed to be able to do whatever you wanted, to offensively, the guard play between. Keep in mind, this year Jamal Crawford did win a 6th Man of the Year.
Right.
Between the guard play with CP3 and Jamal Crawford, the athleticism of Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan, the defense that they played, the point forward of Josh Smith being able to do everything. Austin Rivers, that was the first year he kind of came into his own.
Right.
The guns at JJ Redick, Paul Pierce being the vet, being able to help. And people forgot Lance Stevenson and Mabute were fierce defenders on whomever you put in front of.
That's a fact.
Jeff Green and Wesley being able to hit everything from the mid-range out. Bro, this team looked really fucking good. And what made it even better was they didn't just look good on paper. They finished 53-29.
Mm-hmm. In the
They were
Western
fourth.
Conference.
In the Western Conference, they were fourth.
With the Warriors.
With the Warriors, they lost 2-4 against the Trailblazers. But,
Trailblazers had great teams too with Lillard. Yeah.
This was a team. When I looked at it, and keep in mind, I don't get excited when I see names, because remember the Lakers just happened, and when they did that, the first thing I said, "What the fuck is this clusterfuck that LA is doing?" I don't care about the names because a name could mean nothing if it doesn't fit correctly. With the style that LA ran, adding bigs like Josh Smith, who Jay Smooth was everything in Atlanta coming off those couple seasons.
Facts.
Adding a guy like Paul Pierce, who was coming at the end of his career, but being able to still be on the floor and be productive, to stretch the floor with dudes like JJ Redick and Chris Paul and Jamal Crawford, and leave those cutting lanes for niggas like DeAndre off the pick and roll. And bro, it worked.
Facts.
It worked.
Facts.
It worked. It worked, and I hate to say this because I don't like to make this excuse, but it was poor coaching down the stretch.
Right.
Doc Rivers has a terrible resume of poor coaching down the stretch.
Yep. Unfortunately, and he's a great coach. He's still a great coach to me.
Nigga talk about the coach. There you go. Nigga P said talk about the coaches. There you go. That's the fail. They would have never beat the Warriors. I don't know.
If they had a different coach.
They had a different coach, maybe, because Ross doesn't give context on names. Exactly. I'm not. It's not about who the names were and what those names came with. It was who they were as players. Because Josh Smith could keep up with Draymond Green.
Right.
A healthy Josh Smith at that time would have bullied Draymond Green. He was bigger, he was stronger, and he was more skilled than Draymond Green.
Correct.
But Draymond would have had to play DeAndre. But on the other side of the ball, they'd have played zone.
Right.
And if they wanted to play small ball, okay. So now you got Blake at the 5. You got Josh Smith, again, can still play the 4 or the 5. That was the beauty of him in Atlanta, is that he was really a big 3 that had the height of a nigga who could run the 5.
Facts.
And he could be out there and run with them niggas, and you still got Jamal Crawford, Chris Paul, Paul Pierce, JJ Redick, Abba Mote, and Lance Stevenson out there. I don't think they would have outscored the Warriors if it came down to a scoring situation.
Right.
But I think they could have clamped up everything other than Curry pretty damn well and forced them niggas to go, it's Curry or bust every game.
Right.
Josh Smith was on a decline. He was on a decline, but he was still good enough
to contribute.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Not smarter than Draymond, though. Not able to play his part. No, definitely agreed. I'm just talking about. We're gonna talk about smarts though. Yeah, that wasn't it. All right. So after that, I'm gonna move on to
the next team,
the 99 2000 Toronto Raptors.
Okay. Interesting team.
The 2099 Toronto Raptors in the East, especially because of in the East. Because the 99-2000 Toronto Raptors, that roster went something a little bit like this. You heard? Muggsy Bogues, D. Brown,
Del Curry,
Vince Carter,
Antonio Davis,
Doug Christie,
Antonio Lang,
Tracy McGrady,
Charles Oakley,
Alvin Williams,
Kevin Willis.
Bro.
Holy shit.
Bro. Keep in mind, Vince Carter and Tracy McGrady were back-to-back draft picks.
Right.
Back-to-back draft picks.
And they cousins.
And they cousins. They came in 97 and 98. So I said 99 to have given them both at least a season under their belt to get a little bit seasoned under, Muggsy Bogues being an old vet. Now, people got to understand, I don't believe Muggsy Bogues is going to be out here cooking and killing niggas. That's not Muggsy Bogues' job.
No, of course.
You need veteran leadership on the team to tell niggas when to shut the fuck up, when
leadership.
to do the right things. You need leadership. Muggsy Bogues is there for that. Charles Oakley put niggas in their place.
Exactly.
And he ready to fight everybody. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You still had...
And he's still going to hustle for you, too, because that's what Charles Oakley was for us.
You had Antonio Davis. You had Dale Curry. We talking about you know who daddy in there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You know who daddy was there.
We're talking about people who 6'9" plus, basically.
You talking about Doug Christie. We done talked about Doug Christie twice today.
Yep.
With Sacramento. His wife wasn't there yet, but she was fighting in hallways with doobie raps soon after.
Exactly.
And you have Vince Carter and Tracy McGrady, two Hall of Famers.
Two emerging stars at the time.
Who would have worked because they were family and would have said they wish to have that be done over. Now, they finished third that year. They were 45 and 37.
Yeah.
They were third and got swept by the Knicks. Absolutely swept. Got their ass swept by the Knicks. You hear me?
That was the lockout year?
Yeah.
Yep.
They got swept by the Knicks. But
that Knicks team.
No, that wasn't the lockout year. That was not the lockout year.
The lockout year was 98, 99 then.
So what I'm saying is with that, and then the next year, T-Mac goes to Orlando.
Yep.
And then becomes who he is. And Vince becomes who. These are guys who are still on rookie contracts.
Right.
Who are still readily available to play. Mm-hmm. Who I look at this team and I go, dog.
If they would have remained together, right?
If they gave them two more seasons to see what they would have done, I would have loved to see that.
Yo, bro, not to interrupt you, but I'm thinking about the Oklahoma City Thunder. If they would have left that nucleus alone with Harden, KD, and Russell Westbrook.
And that brings me to my last team. The 2011-2012 OKC Thunder. But hold on, let's get to these comments about the Raptors.
What?
Fuck out of here with them shitty Raptors shitty team. Nah, P. I wanted to see
bro.
it. They were, bro. You can say what you please.
They ended third in the Eastern Conference.
Third in the Eastern Conference, and you can say what you please. They was third in the Eastern Conference, and they had two of the best talent, young boys on a team at that time, who we didn't know they were going to become what they became. Had they given them 2-3 more years, imagine Vince and T-Mac out there, and imagine who they would have been able to attract.
Right. To go over there.
I think those are the conversations people forget.
Those
comes along with this.
Yeah.
Because if you're that good, that attracts other talent.
Of course.
So if them niggas would have been really that good after 2 years, who would have been able to go, my contract coming up, but I might want to go fuck with them Raptor niggas. Them boys look good.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. Hold on.
Moving along.
They had a lot of washed up players. Yeah, there was a lot of niggas. The thing is, I don't feel like when...
I think they had a good mixture of youth and veteran players.
Yeah, because Doug Christie wasn't washed up. Doug Christie wasn't washed up. They was just about to get Camby.
Right. Marcus Camby, correct.
He wasn't nowhere near washed up.
No, of course not.
Vince and T-Mac. And then they had the jump. Yeah, like they started. They had a solid, at least straight 7. before you got to the washed up niggas. And the washed up niggas, we just need you to buy minutes on the bench for now.
Exactly.
Buy minutes on the bench for these
Get
niggas
some
to get the blow.
fouls, you know, hustle a little bit, go after that loose ball, for instance, you know, grab that extra rebound, you know.
Niggas wasn't back then scoring 150 now. Like
Exactly.
like niggas wasn't scoring 150 then.
Yeah, the landscape of the NBA was completely different to what it is today.
Yeah. Lockout year was 97-98. Appreciate you, P.
It was 97-98? Okay.
Thunder drafted 3 MVPs in back-to-back drafts. Cuddy?
I don't know why I feel like that's the wrong year, to be quite honest. That wasn't the year of the lockout, because I remember the year of the lockout, the Knicks actually were the only 8 seed team, I think, to this date to make it all the way to the finals, and that was in 99, and that was the year of the lockout.
I mean, I don't know what year the lockout was, and I'm not about to look it up right now. It was 97?
Yeah. It was 98-99, as I said. Yeah, the NBA lockout. 98-99. Yeah.
Copy. All right. Thunder drafted 3 MVPs in back-to-back drafts. Okay. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Like that part of it is incredible.
But that's crazy how I didn't wait, Pop. I'm sorry. It's crazy how I didn't even know that you had mentioned this Thunder team, and it sparked that thought when you was talking about if they would have let them, you know, like grow as a team, and like instantly I thought about that team, and then that's the team that you were talking about next.
Name another good team in the East at the time. Y'all really thinking about bad coach? Okay, y'all talk about bad coaching, and
he's talking about the Raptors,
and and nobody.
Okay, first of all, the Knicks were a presence. The Knicks were still a presence at that point in time. The Philadelphia 76ers were becoming a presence as well because they made it to the finals the year after. I think the Bulls even they were still winning at least 40 games at that point, if I'm not mistaken, and I think the Heat were also a presence with Alonzo.
That was also when the Nets were doing that whole Keith Van Horn.
Right. The East has some comp, definitely.
My thing is, it don't matter if you got comp. It ain't my job to decide who else is on the East. My job was to look at the roster in Toronto and go, I think that these niggas would have been nice. Just like it ain't my job to worry about who I play against. My job is to go out there and beat them niggas.
Right.
So what I'm saying is, I think that with the roster that Toronto had, they would have been able to make something great happen.
Of course.
I don't know if it would have been championship.
But there was something.
But it would have been fun to watch.
Right.
It would have been fun to watch. And now we get to the Thunder. We now know for a fact it has given us 3 MVPs in James Harden, Russell Westbrook, and KD.
Oh, even the Bucks were good at that time.
We also know that it gave us Serge Ibaka. Let me give you the roster.
I mean, bro,
the roster that.
Bro, off rip, they gave us 3 of the greatest players ever.
I'm gonna give you the roster that time. Floor. Cole Ulrich, Nick Collison, Daquan Cook, Kevin Durant, Derek Fisher, James Harden, Lazar Howard, Serge Ibaka, Royal Ivey, Reggie Jackson, Eric Maynard.
Ooh, Reggie Jackson was such a presence.
Muhammad, Kendrick Perkins, Ryan Reed, Thabo Tafalosa, and Russell Westbrook. Okay.
Jesus.
So I'm gonna go ahead and say, just looking at what Reggie Jackson is still out there getting contracts.
This is during the era of the Heatles, to be exact, Pop Folk, when LeBron was with the Heat.
Y'all just watched Reggie Jackson ball out last year for the Clippers in the playoffs and get that contract.
Facts.
So you had Reggie Jackson sitting out here. You had Serge Ibaka being Serge. Kendrick Perkins. Thabo. He was always a decent help. He was never the guy, but he was nice to have. He was helpful. But we're really looking at the 3 we know to be James Harden,
surefire Hall of Famers,
Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook. They got close once. Had the Warriors down 3-1, and then folded like
Church
some wet,
chairs.
just a wet cardboard, and didn't run it back.
KD left.
KD
Remember.
left because he felt that he could not win
with Russell.
Well, with Russell, but James Harden was gone by then also.
Oh yeah, he was gone.
James Harden was gone by then.
He jumped ship way before that. He went to the money. He went to Houston.
Right, he was gone by then. But what I'm saying is, when I'm looking at this roster, what would have happened if James Harden had stayed, and Westbrook would have had to learn earlier in his career how to truly play with other greats? Because when he got to Houston, him and
James Harden
played well together. They played well together in Houston. But it was a little late.
And the Warriors were around.
And the Warriors were around.
Mm-hmm.
So
the dynasty.
What happens?
And the Warriors were around with KD.
What happens?
What happens when
the Warriors were around with KD? Exactly. What happens if the organization, because that was the organization's fault, but they could have kept James Harden. God. They could have kept James Harden. What happens if the organization does what they want and keeps James Harden? Russ has to learn to play with KD, other stars.
Right, other stars, yeah. They would have attracted, like you mentioned earlier, more people to go to OKC.
Kendrick Perkins and Ibaka had the 5 lockdown. That was their 5.
Yeah, that front court.
Jackson coming off the bench with the 6 man. So that's their 6 right there. That's a championship 6. That's a championship 6. No, yeah, he was a 6 man at that time. But what we're saying is, had he stayed in OKC, the starting 5 would have been Ibaka, Perkins, KD, Harden, Russ, and Reggie would have came off the bench. Reggie Jackson would have came off the bench as the 6 man there. That would have eventually been the starting 5 for the Thunder, and Russ would have learned earlier in his career how to play on the team without him having the ball. I don't think he would have garnished the reputation of the point guard you can't win with. Because I love, till this day, nobody, I don't know if I've ever seen a motor like Russ's in the NBA.
Oh, in terms of energy, oh my God.
I don't know if I've ever seen a motor like Russell Westbrook's.
Yeah, his motor's uncanny.
The problem is
he's reckless as well.
That motor is in a car that ain't never been steered right. It drives too fast for the tires it got on it.
Yep.
I
think Russell Westbrook, and like, since we're using this analogy, I'd compare him to like a GTO or something like that, because I felt like the engine or the motor in that vehicle was too powerful for the overall like mechanics or the overall dynamic of that vehicle. And it's like, I don't know, it was just one of those things.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, Pete, that they wouldn't have had much of a bench. Yeah, I saw Russell. You see, if we keep it at 100, bro, I got it. My problem is, and I
mean, the Heat didn't have much of a bench, and they won 2 titles.
The reality of it is, you can always find a bench.
Of course.
If your starting 5 is that good,
of course.
If your starting 5 or your starting 6 is
you
that
can get over.
Yeah. You can find a bench, because you just got to make sure that, okay, them niggas can't never all sit at the same time.
Exactly.
We got a 10-man rotation,
maybe 2 at a time.
Yeah, right. 2 or 3 at a time, and
keep hard in the game. You know,
one of you 3 niggas is always on the floor.
Right.
KD, Harden, or like,
Would have been a great team, bro. Definitely. I agree with this
John Jam is that
particular team.
Hold on, let's see. Hold on, let me.
Yeah, we can't see the comments actually.
Yeah, here we go. Harden was the 6th man at OKC. He stays. There's no bench. Last night, did you see Russ at your John is that Russ and Harden were never going to coexist long term? I mean, yeah, and we know that now. But
right, of course.
But the crazy thing is, hindsight is 2020.
It sure is.
And that's part of how this conversation goes, is because we know that it didn't exist then. But just to know that there was so much talent on that roster.
And so much potential. And
so much potential that they never even gave it a chance.
Right.
They never gave it a chance. So those are my 3 teams. We did want to talk, and I pulled it up just because I personally thought that there was I personally thought that for me I didn't know if I wanted the 99 Knicks or if I liked now for me on a personal level, the 99 to 2000 Knicks. That was tough. That was tough.
Yeah, that
that was tough.
I'll be quite honest, during those finals, Patrick Ewing got injured, and that was a big blow for the team. But it wasn't a big blow until we actually reached the finals, which was against Tim Duncan and David Robinson. So we had Marcus Camby, and then we had Larry Johnson on Tim Duncan. So matchup-wise, there was a disadvantage there. So I had a feeling we were going to lose. But actually the 93-94 Knicks team, I believed, should have won that championship because they took the Houston Rockets to 7 games. And John Starks had a terrible game 7, but if you look at game 6 of that particular series against the Rockets, Starks was amazing in the 4th quarter in that game. So
I look at these teams, bro, and I go, I probably want to agree with that. That was probably the better team also. But I'm just looking at
overall, yeah, because Patrick was, at his peak, basically.
Right.
We had Charles Oakley, we had Derek Mason,
and that was the 2003 squad.
No, that was the 93 squad I'm talking about.
Oh, the 93. Yeah. That was better. When I was looking at the most recent, the reason I said 2000, 99, 2000, that was the 50-win squad with Jeff Van Gundy and Tom Thibodeau. That was the Thibodeau coach team. He was assistant to Van Gundy there. That was also when we had. That was also like the Marcus Camby, Chris Childs. Yeah. I just keep thinking of like the team, but anyway.
That's when Allen Houston actually.
Allen Houston was crazy.
$100 million contract.
Larry Johnson, Sprewell, Kurt Thomas. John Wall,
Chris Childs, great
Charlie
defenders.
Ward.
Charlie Ward, great defenders as well on the backcourt. They had a solid team, definitely. And then Patrick went down, I believe, in the 2nd round of those playoffs.
So it was just one of those things where there were teams like the Knicks who you could name year after year after year after year
where they
were good teams. They just weren't.
The Bulls were around. That was one factor.
Unfortunately.
For the Knicks fans. Fortunately, for the Bulls fans or whatever the case is. But I agree with you, especially in the 90s. When we're talking 90s, the Knicks, like I said earlier, were definitely a presence.
Yeah, word. So it said, word on the motor for us. Well, what a street race, 10-second street car.
10-second car.
John Nizell said early 90s Blazers were a real good team that never won.
Yes, we're talking about Clyde Drexler. Yes, I remember that team too. Yeah.
Yep. 93, 60 win.
Joe Dumars, I believe, was on that team too.
Good fuck you said.
No, we're not. Yo, I'm with you. Fuck,
chill, P.
after they gave Houston that $100 million contract, after those exact playoffs where we lost in the finals against the San Antonio Spurs, Allen Houston, I'm talking about, just declined as a player as time went on. And it was just pathetic to watch a 6'6" person that couldn't even grab a fucking rebound, couldn't play any type of defense. And then if his shot wasn't on, he was just not a factor within the game, which was terrible. And that's kind of like what we went through again in the 2010s with Carmelo Anthony. He became that same type of player, basically. He couldn't do anything if his shot wasn't on. He couldn't play defense. He couldn't grab a rebound. He couldn't, dish the rock. He couldn't do anything. He couldn't even be a leader.
Yeah, so
I felt like he was a reincarnation of Allen Houston of the early 2000s. That was sad what happened with Carmelo Anthony. I expected a lot more out of those Knicks teams. Actually, we made it, I believe, to the second round against the Indiana Pacers. And you remember when Hibbert blocked Carmelo Anthony? You remember those playoffs, bro?
I remember the play. I just don't remember.
J.R. Smith was Sixth Man of the Year. I think Carmelo Anthony won the scoring title. I think the coach at that point for the Knicks, I can't really remember right now, was Coach of the Year. Donnie Walsh was actually like Executive of the Year or something like that because he put that team together and he orchestrated that trade that got Carmelo Anthony, to the Knicks, basically, at that point.
That was also when George Karl had said something that was amazing and terrible about Carmelo Anthony all at one time.
Correct.
When he said that Carmelo Anthony could average 10 assists a game if he wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Which lets you know that Melo just never had any intention of ever giving niggas the ball. That just wasn't in his makeup. Yeah, but there's a lot of great basketball teams
that should have made it. Yeah.
Shout out to the 2018 Rockets who boys missed 27 straight threes in Game 7. Crazy.
I believe in 2018 as well, James Harden actually had the first 60-point triple-double. It wasn't Luka Doncic like it was, at the end of last year, Power Folk. It was actually James Harden.
Yep. Blazers, Sonics. Yep. Olajuwon destroyed that Orlando team. Yeah.
Well, Olajuwon and company, because remember, they had Sam Cassell, they had Robert Horry. They had a lot of great players. Kenny Smith was on that team, too.
Last week, we talked about the 3 best white players in the NFL that were not quarterbacks. This week, we talked about great teams that just never lived up to their potential, or never really got to fully be who they thought they were. I got an idea for this upcoming week.
Okay. We'll keep it under wraps.
I got an idea for this upcoming week.
Let's keep it under wraps. Yeah.
So that'll be interesting. We've been here for over an hour. We don't really have to touch on the last 2 if you don't want to. We can.
Nah, we good.
Yeah. So, all right. So
this is a
ladies and gentlemen.
So
yeah, exactly. Anybody? Yeah, exactly. So
the ladies must have checked out already, but if there was still some ladies here looking at us, like, shout out to you. Thanks for all the support. And follow us everywhere.
Word. We appreciate y'all.
And get that merch. You have a banner for the merch?
Hold up. Bang. Hold
hey.
on.
Let's get it.
Bang.
Get that merch, Power Folk.
Bang. Bang.
It's still there.
Bang. Bang.
We're on Spotify, Apple Podcast, SoundCloud,
all that. All right, y'all. Be safe out here in these streets.
Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
Yep. Tell a friend to tell a friend.
Follow this guy's I ain't even gonna say it, man.
TikTok.
Pathetic.
Be mad at the TikTok. 40-year-old niggas be mad at the world. That's okay. I ain't mad at you. I ain't mad at you. Just be 40 and be mad, my nigga. That's cool. All right, y'all. We love y'all. Be safe.
Yo.